will try to shed a few spotlights on some recent developments related to elder abuse in Germany. This is subjective, this is selective. When I compiled these things, I had the words in the call for the conference in mind: policy, changes in law, changes in new developments in research, and I hope I was able to compile a little bit of it. Well, I will speak about some legal changes. I will speak about one interesting thing which is happening at the moment in Germany, a so-called constitutional complaint related to institutional long-term care, and I will speak a little bit about research related to elder abuse and to victimization in later life. Long-term care in Germany, for those of you who are not familiar with it, Germany introduced a long-term care insurance in 1995, quite early. This insurance is funded by income-based contributions. It provides benefits both for home care and for institutional care. For home care, you have the choice between benefits in cash or benefits in kind. For institutional care, of course, it's only in kind. At this moment, there are a little bit more than 2.5 million beneficiaries of German long-term care insurance, and about 70% of them are not in institutional care, but they are being cared for at home, and most of those being cared for at home are being cared for without continued support from in-home professional services. Caregiving in Germany, of course, is also a kind of business branch. It's an industry. We have around 12,000 nursing homes, including daycare centers, etc., and about the same number of home care services. Well, this long-term care insurance, introduced in the mid-90s, it has been developed further and further, and there's always been criticism. It provides too little benefits, and the second big criticism is the German understanding of need for care is centered too much around physical disability, and it does not really, or it only very lately it started to take up the idea that being physically able but being mentally disabled, suffering from dementia and other diseases is something that also, of course, creates need for care. And in January this year, the so-called first act to strengthen long-term care, we have sometimes strange names for our laws, went into force, and well, it introduced some little changes. Many people say that's not the big thing. It's slight improvements, but it's not the real big thing. Benefits were raised by 4%. There's an expansion of short-time care and respite care. There's an expansion of services not directly related to caregiving, but things like housekeeping, things like employing voluntary helpers and giving them some money. There are now benefits for relatives if they, when need for care is new and when they have to arrange a care arrangement for their relative, they can take 10 days off from work to organize a suitable care setting. There are slight improvements for dementia patients now to be assigned to benefits from our long-term care insurance. Somehow all my graphics are. I hope this doesn't. it looked different in my on my PowerPoint, but I hope that doesn't happen to the. There are some graphs coming. I'm a little bit anxious about this. There's only now the logo of German Police University missing, so you don't miss much. But I'm a little bit afraid what will happen. In 2 years from now, the so-called second act to strengthen long-term care will enter into force. This second act, it will introduce a new understanding of need for long-term care, which includes the problems of dementia patients and which pays more attention to cognitive and psychological impairments. So this is the legal reform we just had to 4 months ago. Another thing which is currently happening is a so-called constitutional complaint, which was filed in November 2014. A constitutional complaint is a legal remedy in German law if a citizen feels that his constitutional rights are violated by things that the government does. He may sue government, so to speak. And this constitutional complaint, it does not start at the lower judicial levels, but it goes immediately to the Federal Constitutional Court. And now we are having this constitutional complaint related to long-term institutional care. It was filed by 7 individuals, 7 persons, 4 of them are already in institutional care, and then there are 2 young persons suffering, the one suffering from Down syndrome, the other one suffering from some degenerative physical illness. And there is a 51-year-old woman who's healthy at the moment, but she's in the position, or she comes from a family where early onset dementia runs in the family. And she says, well, it's my grandmother had it, my mother had it, my older sister had it. It's my odds of also getting it are so high, and I will be in the position to be in a nursing home probably in a couple of years. And what I see, what's happening there, is not in accordance with what our basic law, our constitution guarantees. German constitution in the first 19 articles, it guarantees basic rights and liberties like the right to life, the right to physical integrity, the right to free development of personality, and so on and so on. And what these people say is long-term care in Germany, institutional long-term care in Germany systematically violates these constitutional rights. And we are going to sue government for it. And this constitutional complaint is rarely used in Germany. It's not something that happens every 2 or 3 days, but it happens rarely. It has never been used, to my knowledge, in the context of providing care, of caregiving. And I'm very, very much interested in the ongoing process. I think it will take some time until the Constitutional Court will make a decision, and if the decision will be positive, I'm afraid it will be a negative one, it will be dismissed, but if it will be positive, it will have very broad consequences for caregiving legislation in Germany. Okay, we are approaching the graphs. Okay, it all looks very different. I'm coming to my last point, victimization research and elder abuse research in Germany. Germany is a country which never has invested money in repeated victimization surveys, like, for example, the US have with their National Crime Victimization Survey, like the UK has with what has for a long time been called the British Crime Survey, now the Crime Survey for England and Wales. So population-based surveys that provide information on percentages of people becoming victims, of background factors, and so on. And some of you know I work for the police. I'm not a police officer, but I have to praise German police, because what has happened in recent years is that some police forces of the German Länders, of the German federal states, they have initiated such victimization surveys themselves. The first one was the police force of Lower Saxony, which is in the northwest of Germany, and then this gets a kind of dynamic, because then the people in Lower Saxony say, we have data on victimization rates in our population, and people in the other Länders that say, why can't we have it as well? And now, at this moment, there are 3 German police forces conducting planned as regularly as repeated victimization surveys, and the first one was the police force in Lower Saxony, and I would like to show you some results. Good. Everything is fine. Okay. I was afraid there would be only nothing, just letters. Yeah, these are findings from a population-based survey in the German state of Lower Saxony. Around 20,000 people surveyed. And this is the overall rate of people reporting having been victimized by theft, robbery, fraud, cybercrime, sexual offenses, physical assault, threat, intimidation, damage to property in the last 12 months. And what you can see here is a typical result you have in victimization surveys. Victimization rates, they peak at early ages and they continuously go down with age. That's not a surprising result. That is something you find in victimization surveys everywhere. If you take a little look at more details, at specific offenses, picture already changes a little bit. If we stay with physical assault is a big issue with young people. It's a very smaller issue. It's a smaller issue with older people, but at least what we can say, it doesn't, after age 50, it doesn't really decline anymore. It stabilizes at a much lower level than a young age, but it stabilizes. With burglary, we have an unusual development because, as you can see, the rate of older people, of very old people, 80 plus, being burgled in the last 12 months is as high as at any age, higher than in middle adulthood, and as high as among young adults. I will come back to the financial exploitation topic that Lynn and Carl have mentioned. These are data also from the Lower Saxony survey on intimate partner violence at different ages, psychological aggression, physical violence. Again here, and this was only for people who had been living in a partnership in the last 12 months, so it's not widows and so on are excluded. And here again, what you can see is like what we have seen for assault in general. This is something that happens also in later life, but it's not increasing with age. It's going down. We have been doing a project, or we have finished a project last year, which was funded by our Federal Family Ministry. The working title of that project, you always have to put it in a positive way, was Security Potentials in Later Life. Sounds positive, doesn't it? And we focused in this project, we focused on two topics which we regarded as important. The one was property offenses and financial exploitation. You can put it in the bracket. Targeted at older adults. And the second topic we tried to take a look at was, I called it everyday security needs and everyday security strategies of older people, because older people somehow they perceive things as younger people. They perceive things as dangerous, and somehow they deal with these perceived dangers. And we wanted to, by conducting interviews, we wanted to learn a little bit more about this, and we also wanted to maybe build something like a training program to improve these everyday security strategies. Okay, regarding property offenses and financial exploitation, we analyzed police data that had not been published. We analyzed files from the judiciary, from public prosecutors. We did a lot of interviews with experts, with victims relatives. We wanted to do interviews with offenders, and in the end we ended up with 2 or 3. That was a difficult thing. And we tried to get a kind of overall picture of financial crimes, financial exploitation targeted at older persons. And that picture is a quite complex one. On the one hand, we have to say that there is something like organized financial crime targeted at older person. That has nothing to do with the family. That is crime business. You will probably have these scams, frauds in your countries as well. In Germany, the most famous and infamous scam is the so-called "It's Me" scam. That scam, this is a kind of crime which is done by some criminal family clans operating usually not from within Germany but from without. They can operate from without because the contact to the victim is made by phone. They select the people they call by their first names, by their Christian names, because Christian names they become unfashionable and fashionable. And if somebody in Germany, for example, now is called Martha, it's either a 70, 80, 90-year-old or a very young child whom you will not find in the telephone book. So you can guess, but you can often guess by the name how old a person is. And what they do is that they call these persons, then they say hello, and then the person who is called may say, "Is that you, John?" And yes, it's me, and I'm a little bit in trouble. A car broke down. I can buy a good opportunity to buy a new one, but I have to pay in cash, and I have to pay today. And you can surely help me get the money back tomorrow, and so on and so on. And then, then other call. If the person is called goes to the bank, then other calls come. Well, I cannot come and pick up the money myself because I'm in trouble with that and that. But my really trustful friend William will come, and please give him the money and get it back, and so on and so on. And there's only one of many scams, and there's a real criminal industry targeting older people. But that's not everything. What we also found, what you know, it's not something we have discovered like Columbus discovered America, but it had also been discovered before. There are a lot of criminal opportunities for people who are acting not from Poland or from wherever, but who are acting from the inner circle of older people, who are acting as family members, who are acting as people who have got some kind of power of attorney for financial matters, and also what we were not really aware of when we started the project, who are acting as legal guardians. In Germany, we have professional legal guardians and we have lay legal guardians. Lay legal guardians usually are family members, but not always. We saw that legal guardianship is maybe a good thing, or it has good intentions behind it, but it also offers a lot of opportunities for committing crimes. And what we also saw is that there are, I called it some twilight zones, and I would like to mention two twilight zones. One is where it's hard to say, is that crime, is that exploitation, or is that something different? There's one twilight zone which I would say is between just immoral or unethical business tactics and crime. There's a gray area. And the other one is between, I call it between granting benefits to loved ones and being exploited. Because, you know, in the family, demanding something and giving something, it's sometimes hard to distinguish where love ends and where exploitation begins. Yeah. These are data from the Bavarian police that we compiled and analyzed, and usually if you have, this is victims, age-related victimization risk for theft in the private dwelling, excluding burglary, excluding breaking and entering. And usually police data on victimization risk, they go like this. You know, they are high at 18, 20, 25, and then they continuously go down. And what you can see here, even in police data, so in detected crimes for this kind of offenses, we have a completely different picture. And what we can also see is, I always refer to this distinction between third age and fourth age, where the victimization risk really goes up. Is not for the you're not in danger yet. It's not for the 60-year-olds. It's not even for the 65-year-olds. It's not even for the 70-year-olds. But where it really goes up is then in the 9th and the 10th decade. Okay, what we did based on this research was to conceive a kind of small training program for bank employees. We also put it into practice. We wanted to evaluate it, but I have to, Carl, I cannot solve the problem that you mentioned. We were not able to have a real control group. It was very difficult to measure effects. We know that bank employees were very satisfied with the way we trained them, that they said, well, we've learned new things, we feel more secure in handling critical situations and so on, but that's far from a real evaluation. What we found important in doing such trainings was to include both the individual level and the organization level, because the bank employee who is being trained to act professionally in a situation of suspect of financial fraud, financial exploitation, he must not only have knowledge, but he must also have the confidence that if he intervenes in that situation, his organization is behind him. So you need tools. And the last thing I want to mention is, in that study, security credentials in everyday life. As I said, we conducted interviews, a lot of interviews with older people living in urban areas and rural areas, in one very wealthy urban quarter, in one rather poor urban quarter. And we wanted to know what are the everyday threats to security they perceive. And what we could see is that on the one hand, there are security threats which are related to crime in the strict sense of the word. On the other hand, much and more of older people's security, perceived threats to security, they do not come from crime in a narrower sense of the word, but they come from what criminologists call incivilities of everyday life, especially youth hanging around in groups in the public, consuming alcohol, behaving loudly, and so on. And based on these interviews, we also conceived a small training program for older citizens, and the topics that we put into this program, they were not our ideas, but they came from the people we interviewed, and was 4 main topics: protection against property offenses. There we always invited a police officer and who gave some advice. Secure handling of different kinds of modern technical equipment, feeling more secure with modern techniques, especially with modern communication technology. We had a small program on self-assertiveness and everyday encounters, and we always had one afternoon where local older people met with local youth, which was always very positively received. The last slide. What will happen in the future? Those legal reforms in Germany, they will hopefully expand the understanding of the need for long-term care to include dementia patients in a better way. I mentioned the constitutional complaint. I'm very much interested in the outcome. I'm not very optimistic, but you never know. I'm sure that more of the German lenders will jump on that victimization survey train, so we will have more and better data on older crime victims. And regarding emerging research topics in Germany, this comes very much from what I want to do in the next couple of years. The topic that was mentioned by Lynn and by Carl, resident and resident abuse, is something that will become a topic in Germany. And also we are at this moment not having funding yet, but planning a study on abuse and guardianship. That's what I've brought for you from Germany. Thank you very much.